better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need the wrong or right.
All right, what's up?
So I had a game of Monster of the Week, sort of session 0. That was a lot of fun. I was a player. Very excited for it. It's another Powered by the Apocalypse system.
Excellent. You played it, or you're planning on playing it?
We're just starting a short campaign. The idea is it draws on the X-Files or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something where, hey, you're a ragtag group of champions and you gotta solve a mystery, Scooby, this week.
Monster of the Week. I like it.
Yeah,
back to the roots of serialized television.
We decided the theme for our monster fighting group would be we all work for a top secret branch of the only government institution I respect.
Is it the post office?
The U.S. Postal Service.
Postal Service. That's there's a reason why the Kevin Costner masterpiece was called The Postman and not the policeman or the fireman. It's because
we're gonna find out how many times he rings because we are the mail order government thing, investigating all the crimes that the FBI is too incompetent to figure out.
The only good branch of government that's not the only good government service that's not a library is the Postal Service. I like it.
Nixon is a villain because of his 1973 Postal Reorganization Act that was meant to try and foil us. I obviously decided that, inspired by the old mascot to get people to adopt zip codes, that zone improvement plan for uninitiated folks, that I'm Mr. Zip, this world's equivalent of the Sorcerer Supreme, using the zip code ley lines and numerology to seal in dark terrors that would kill our beloved U.S. mail stuff. So
I love it. I hope you all don't die. It sounds great.
Oh, people will die. It seems like it's a very deadly setup.
I had a unexpected session with my Waterdeep game where absolutely nothing related to the plot happened. The party spent the entire time pursuing irrelevant threads and being distracted by a bag of beans.
Now, wait, I know you get annoyed by this sometimes, but was it fun?
Oh, it was so much fun. No, I don't mean this in a bad way. No, this was delightful. Everybody had a great time. I rolled randomly on a lot of tables because the bag of beans comes with, a lot of chances for interesting things to happen. They accidentally summoned a bulette outside of their inn and had to fight it. But yeah, no, it was. Everybody needs a bottle episode from time to time. Speaking of Monster of the Week, not everything can be grim and exciting. Sometimes you need a postmodern Prometheus to go with all the good X-Files conspiracy episodes, right? You need a little fun side adventure to keep everybody's spirits up, and it was a great time. The party had a wonderful time. They're new, so they're not super familiar with how random tables can deliver exciting and unexpected results, and so I rolled on some random tables, and they got some exciting and unexpected results.
Right, this is some of, I think, my best sessions have always been throwing the players a Rod of Wonder or a deck of many things, or Pathfinder's slightly less deadly version, the Harrow deck of many things, right? Give them a random thing and just let them deal with each other. Yeah.
It's always a good... I think it's always a fun time to give them a random item and see what their appetite for risk is, right?
Yes. It's usually high.
Yeah, as it turns out, it's usually...
Except for one person.
Yeah, it's usually one person saying, maybe we shouldn't do this, and everyone else is like, nope, plant the beans. And, it went great, so yeah.
Adventures in gardening.
Mystical gardening. They did not get the beanstalk eventuality, which is one of the roles that you can get, but a lot of other exciting things. So yeah,
this is I think next time we homebrew some magic items, we need to make a big random table one.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. When we're homebrewing next, let's do a random table or two. That'll be nice.
This is Dungeon Master of None.
Yep, and I'm Dungeon Master Rob.
And I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And today, Matt, I think we're going to talk about fantasy species and or races or ancestries, depending on how you want to term it.
Yes, this is the 9th installment in our 37-part series on homebrewing, world building, your campaign world.
And we've talked about race in generalized terms, especially as regards to how, boy, that's a real weird word, and we'd like to get away from it. So I'll probably be saying species more often than not, though I really like Pathfinder's styling of ancestry. I really do like conceiving of your various, fantasy, types of people as being, of having ancestry rather than being, racially distinct, because that's weird. But everyone knows what we're talking about. We're talking elves, dwarves, dragon folk and tieflings, gnomes and halflings, all that good stuff. And yeah, I have many thoughts about this, but yeah, Matt, where do you want to start?
I think to start us off, it's important to remind ourselves what our goals are in world building. Mm-hmm. So if we look back to way back one of our early episodes about making a campaign Bible, at the end of the day, your thinking should hopefully coalesce around maybe a one-page, one-sentence, couple lines on each of the species available to your players. That's enough information to give them the flavor they need for their world, right? Obviously, you can go beyond that, but that should at least be your minimum goal here.
Yeah. And a lot of people will attempt to sort of do away with a lot of the races when they're homebrewing, which I think is generally a mistake. You can have an all-human campaign, but if you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, you should probably have elves and dwarves and gnomes and halflings. You probably don't need like the whole catalog of 5th edition races, but
right, we're over 30 at this point.
Yeah, and let your players know like what the game can bear. I like to try to work with players, and if they want to bring something to the table, I say, sure, we'll figure out a way that fits into the world. But I think that generally, and again, it's your homebrew world, we can do whatever you want, but if there are better systems for human-only or low, fantasy species type things, and if you want to do that, I would suggest you pick one of them and not D&D, because it's really kind of built around the idea of having different races.
Yeah, no, it's a core part of D&D, but I think there is a lot of value if you want to make everyone the same species. It can force players to be a little more creative in describing their characters, but yeah, for D&D, you've got to go with the assumption that your players are expecting this. I mean, if it's something you've discussed beforehand, it's fine. I think what you end up with is a sliding scale that looks something like this, if you'll bear with me, Rob.
I'll bear with you.
I mean, you can basically flip through the intro part in the player's handbook and take each species as is, slap on some new names or histories or locations or things like that. But, elves are exactly as they're presented in this. They live here and here, right? You could, moving a little farther, add some new tweaks where the different species are not totally unfamiliar to your players, but maybe they act a little bit differently in this world or have a history that is unexpected. Or you can throw that all out the window and really make it very, very different, right? Well, where elves are not woodland creatures, right? Where dwarves do not mine, right?
Right.
But that's I think the sort of spectrum you have to work with.
One of the things that we're always harping on is you want your world to have internal consistency. So You don't need to have an explanation for everything, and you don't need to, meticulously describe every aspect of each species. But if you're going to put them in your game and you're going to do one of the things that Matt just described, if you're going to have them be exactly the same, try to figure out why they're exactly the same as Forgotten Realms / Eberron / Greyhawk elves. And if you're going to have them be slightly different, then you've probably already thought of it. But, ask yourself what it is that, that makes them different and why they are that way. This is one of the things that makes studying, real life cultures valuable and interesting, trying to understand why people are the way they are, why certain countries are the way they are, and this can help you build realistic species. You can also, and this is something that you should consider, is there's sort of an instinct to give each species a homeland, or their own country or nation. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to have every species be distinct, right? You can create a cosmopole, a polyglot empire full of various different things, and that can be a great way to do things as well. It's a little bit like the Star Trek problem, where it starts to seem a little bit weird when you go to the wrinkly forehead land,
the cowboy planet, where everyone's a cowboy.
Yeah, noble warrior planet, or So
well, no, that is super true. Eberron does a great job of threading the middle ground while keeping the important tropes together, right? You still have woodland elves, but you also have cosmopolitan elves. I think this also presents something I'd like to call the Dungeon Master's paradox, which is when you're designing...
Are you sure you want to use that right here, right now?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we can call it the Dungeon Master Worldbuilding Species paradox.
I'm just saying, if we want to...
just as catchy.
I'm just saying, if we're going to coin the Dungeon Master's paradox, it should be something that we're going to, that's going to make us famous, Matt.
Yes. Okay, that's true. All right, reserving Dungeon Master's paradox, putting it in the vault for a later time. But you do have a paradox when you're creating species, right? If you create them exactly as is, right, then that's very constraining for your world building, which is the whole reason you're doing this in the first place, and not playing in Middle Earth or Greyhawk, right? But if you make them different and you're like, well, all my elves are vicious, sort of reaving people who have no regard for any other species and hate beauty, right? Then your players are gonna show up with an elf who's a beautiful bard and be disappointed, right? So I think it's a tough one to solve.
This is a fantasy world building problem, right? It's don't call a dog a floop. Right? Like whenever a fantasy author or a science fiction author, creates a new world, they don't call their dogs, like, a dog is a dog, right? If there are dogs in the world, a horse is a horse, right? They don't say, and Galumph came around the corner and it had 4 legs and hooves. It was an ungulate. It's a fucking horse, right? So
right.
you want.
But Rob, in my world, we farm the ground fruit, and every day we bake it into field loaves. Some may call it bread, but
not us.
Yeah.
Not us. So you want it to be recognizable, right? So if you're going to use elves, you should adhere to some of your tropes, and there are a lot of great examples of. Let's go species by species, Matt, and talk about, like, some of the ways that this have been done and ways we can make them interesting, and talk about how you can include them without having them be carbon copy Tolkien elves, right? So
yes.
let's just
start with elves. Let's do that, and then let's of course give how we're gonna put them into our own homebrew worlds. All
right. So Matt, you first. Let's talk about the elven folk, the fair folk.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes. Here's the problem with elves, is that I like elves, honestly, at the end of the day, and I know why players like elves, right? They're beautiful, and they're better versions of us, right? Tolkien did it in Lord of the Rings. Roddenberry did it with Vulcans, and yeah, people want to play those characters, so I don't want to take that away from them. And then I thought, what's the thing that really bugs me about elves? And I thought, there's too many sub-races, right? Let's see. Can I list them all, right? High elves,
sun
wood
elves, wood elves, Eldar, Drow,
the Eladrin, the
Eladrin,
Shadar Kai.
Yeah,
there's 4 versions of Eladrin, right?
Right.
So there's already too many subspecies, right? We've got 7. And I'm like, I can't do the effort to put those into my world. So I thought, well, elves are immortal or really long-lived that it almost doesn't matter. So why don't we take a fun spin on that and say that elves are, all the same tropes, but they are constantly reincarnate. Maybe every human lifetime, every 40, 50, 100 years, they choose a new path and they head back, and elves possess a special version of the reincarnate spell where they can reincarnate themselves into a different subspecies of elves. And some do it more frequently, maybe every 10 years or something as the situation arises, and they need to do that. And they keep most of their memories, right? And there you've got immortal elves that have been reincarnating, lets players play into all their tropes, and lets them maybe even change sub-races during the game.
Excellent. I'm not going to use the Darien scheme when talking about species today, because what I did in that is that I said that every species or all humanoids can have sort of a common ancestor and can produce ancestry of any type, elves, dwarves, whatever, and so they sort of all live in a polyglot society. And I do want...
So there's no such thing as actual... The species don't really determine much in this.
No, they don't.
Other than your, whatever...
You're more slender, you're more squat, you're more, but I'll talk about what I did in...
I like that. That's a really good solution in general. Everyone lives here.
Well, what I'd like to do, and I haven't fleshed this out, but I'd like to do for all of my races, have them have tendencies towards something. They adhere towards something, and they tend to end up in certain professions, sometimes even certain locations, right? But that almost every city is still pretty much multicultural. Will,
and then you want to leave it where your players aren't unsurprised when they meet an elven wizard or an elven bard.
But what I did in Thunder on the Steppe, and I'll use this as an example for most of these. Thunder on the Steppe, I had...
Thunder in the Steppe, just for those unfamiliar just joining us, is a campaign world, Rob. It's homebrewed, inspired by the Mongol Empire and a giant nomadic confederation.
Yes, it was intended to be a high fantasy D&D game that took place mostly on horseback, which we kind of got away from pretty quickly, but that's okay. It was the idea... and based on sort of a 12th century world. But the elves were inheritors of a fallen thassalocracy. They were seagoing elves mostly, and I always liked...
There's one more subspecies I missed.
Right. And
elves, also the winged elves. God damn it.
Winged elves, I forgot the winged elves. I always liked this part of elves. I always liked when there were sea elves that were, especially attuned to the sea.
Gray-eyed.
Yes. So I just sort of took the idea of the Grey Havens and made a whole nation out of it. And so the elves were small in number, not especially wealthy or powerful, but, had a good with bows and swords, and spent a lot of time upon the seas. And I always preferred that to both the woodland elves and impossibly powerful and beautiful high elves, in terms of just interest to me.
Well, I'm just playing... I think I might play more off the names, and the high elves, they like smoking the reefer. No one's made that joke before.
No one has made this joke before in the history of Dungeons and Dragons. We should do an episode on drug use in D&D, actually. Poisons, drugs, substances. That would be fun.
Yeah, we should homebrew some. All right. Okay, no, I like that. And I think that's one way to really make a species unique, is to give them a strong tie to some sort of biome or something like that. Especially one that, has chances for adventure, right?
Yes.
The sea.
The sea.
I think so. My elves, I think, in sort of getting around the planet of hat tropes, I'm just gonna say that in the homebrew campaign I'm doing, it's called Wild Space, and the initial campaign setting is a solar system that has been recently liberated from evil galactic empires and united in a good confederation of good guys that have democracies and things like that. I'm going to say that elves basically in the solar system, right, exist on like every planet, right? Because they have a subspecies for every goddamn thing. They're everywhere, right? Maybe again, just play into that small in number trope. But yeah, they're nomads. They travel around. Maybe quite mysteriously how they've ended up on every planet, right? Maybe the elves have some kind of portal network that they've kept back from other species. But yeah, they're on every planet, and they're good with going everywhere, and they're constantly basically seeking out new experiences. Instead of being like the isolationist elves that we often see, elves are just creatures that want to get out and experience the world. I'd originally thought, and tell me what you think about this, Rob. I'd originally thought of stealing from, oh God, what's his name? Judas Starr, Pandora's Chains. What's that sci-fi
Pandora's
author?
Starr, Peter F. Hamilton.
Peter F. Hamilton, whose Sylvan
Judas Unchained is...
Judas Unchained, yes, thank you. The two things I remember out of that book are there are elves.
Space elves.
There's the world's greatest detective, and she's Amish or something. Space Amish.
It's like Mennonite. Yeah, I remember. Those are great books. But yeah, they were called Sylvari. They were literally like, these are space elves.
They're just elves, right?
Yeah.
And the idea in the book is that they're just basically juvenile forms of some greater species that are either, this is what they do in their childhood, and then they ascend to a hive mind or another dimension or another reality, or maybe it's parts of that other reality species when they're like, it'd be nice to spend a couple millennia in a physical form for a while. Let's go back and do that.
I like that. Yeah. I like that for elves. It just runs the risk of having them be too powerful and ethereal and all that nonsense. But I did like that trope in those books, and I do like the idea of that for elves especially.
I think the way around it might be that that's just what elves believe, right?
I like that.
Elves are fine. They're all about new experiences, right? In one lifetime, they may like, sure, I'll be a cleric of the Ivory Empress. Sure, I'll believe in this religion. In this life, I'll be a druid. But yeah, I mean, I know that as an elf, when I die, I will either be reincarnated into another elf to experience a new experience, or I'll just go rejoin the elf Neverland, right? Elves, that's the trope about elves, is they go to Neverland at the end.
That's right.
So it makes them arrogant and maybe risk takers and foolhardy, and their human friends are like, wait, don't do that, you'll die. And they're like, fuck it, death means nothing.
Yeah, I do like the childlike aspect of elves, and that they have when you write them as if they don't have quite a sufficient respect for dangerous things. That's always an interesting elf aspect.
So they might take a little kinder aspect to them. They, leaning into the chaos, right? That flavor that they're given in the player's handbook is they don't believe in death.
Right.
And now your character, of course, could be like, wait, I've lived around humans this life. I'm sort of getting infected with this mortality idea.
I love that about Tolkien.
Getting a little nervous now.
I love that about Tolkien is how like being around humans just like made elves suck more. It made them want to die and made them,
honestly, same.
More mortal. And it was just being around humans. I love it. We poison people with our humanness.
Excellent. All right, I can't talk about elves anymore. Let's do someone else.
No more elves. No more elves. Dwarves. Let's talk about dwarves.
All right, this is what I've been waiting for. So I love dwarves. Do you love dwarves?
I also love dwarves. We both love dwarves.
What is it about dwarves that really gets to you?
It's their imperfection, their lust for life. It's their if we're talking about if we talk about each of these species as like a character, right? The elf is a Mary Sue, right? The elf can do everything, is good at fighting and magic and singing and rides horses the best and blah, 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 blah.
But Rob, they have one really important flaw is that they get sad.
And then they die. But a dwarf, yeah, sure, a dwarf is good at fighting and a dwarf is good at making things out of stone, but it's also short and ugly and loud and drunk and, prone to fits of anger. And they're just like, I think as a human being, very relatable, as relatable as humans are, especially in, yes. in Tolkien, but also like most fantasy conceptions of dwarves are just like, this is a person that I can understand, right? Unlike an elf who tends to be not even like above and beyond like our noble heroes, like some sort of hoity-toity, snooty, above it all fellow. But a dwarf gets down in the dirt and works with his hands like a man or a woman.
Rob, do you remember in 2002? When I feel like we got banned from a Lord of the Rings forum for making fun of some person who really liked elves and saying dwarves were better. I remember this.
I don't remember it. It sounds like something I would do.
Yeah.
God, I hope that happened.
I remember us getting in like a good-natured flame war with... we were in high school, by the way.
Arda.net.
Arda.net, yeah. Yeah, there's just someone who's like, elves are better than dwarves, and we were like, no, they're not. Dwarves are better.
In the context...
They got really mad online before being mad online was a thing.
In the context of Tolkien, they were 100% correct, which is why they were so angry
yes,
that we did not agree with them, because, of course, elves are better, but we were insisted on being assholes about it. So dwarves... But the thing is, like, the dwarf is a stereotype, and this is funny. One of the creators of Pathfinder, what's his name, notoriously does not like dwarves and wanted to
Is it Owen? Is it James?
I don't remember.
Okay. Let's leave it best unsaid.
It's definitely one of them, and I called him out on it on Twitter, and he got mad because it's like he just like doesn't like dwarves. And
it's sad. Dwarves are almost like absent from all of the lore of Golarion.
Because the guy just doesn't like dwarves. And I get it, like, yeah, okay, they're like kind of a stereotype, they're kind of like, shallow, but I think it shows a lack of imagination. So what can you do with dwarves so they're not just like, again, it is kind of boring to have them they live underground and they drink beer and they like axes, right? Like what can you do with dwarves to make them a little bit more interesting?
I thought about this and I decided, right, because again, I'm sort of doing this middle ground. Like I want to tweak things for my world, but not so much that it's unreachable by players. So I thought I would lean into that dwarves are really cool at making things. They are the technologists, the artificers, the best magicians. They build the best spaceships. But dwarves are creatures that have like one big fatal flaw, right? Their greed or their alcoholism.
I was thinking in Burning Wheel, each of the races, each of the species has their own sort of like magic like thing, and orcs have hatred, elves have something that's like sadness or whatever, but dwarves have greed. It's like a resource that you can like spend or that gets applied to your dwarf anyway. So yeah, it's their greed, it's their whatever.
Right. And I was thinking the thing that's actually seems like their fatal flaw to me is their sort of isolationism, like living underground and stuff like that. Since my campaign is set in space, they were in this system, but they were, fairly isolated. They were isolationists. And at the end, that didn't save them. I'm going to give my dwarves all the ennui. They have the tragic planet backstory. Their planet got blown up.
The planet got blown up. Great backstory.
So all the dwarves, they had all the nicest, coolest things, but now they all live in the freaking asteroid belt and are all crazy Mad Max scrappers in there.
Yeah.
Maybe not actually Mad Max. They're not like evil and going to turn your teeth into necklaces or anything like that. But no, they're hard scrappers, right? They're the ones hauling in junk and stuff.
Yeah.
Wishing for their bygone stuff. And now they have to deal with, was it our isolation didn't save us? Now we have to. Our clan is the entire good federation of the free folk.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm like you. I think that the really core thing about dwarves, and I think that if you're gonna throw everything else away, but keep the craftiness, right? Because that's why in the Tolkien myth, right? Mandos, which one of them? The craftsman god made them early because he wanted a people in his image, right? The craftsman god did. Am I remembering this correctly?
It's definitely not Mandos. He's the one who holds the halls of death.
You're right. Sorry, man.
It's Kuvanir.
Hang on. I'm going to look this up because it's going to bother me.
It's important that we do this on these good people's time. But yeah. No, yeah, you got to lean in. I think this is the solution I'm coming to that's working for my own homebrew, right? Is to lean into one aspect that's very recognizable to players, and then change the rest.
It's Aule.
Aule.
Anyway, so I like this. So this is the thing.
Aule. Dwarves of London.
This is the thing I tend to keep when I'm homebrewing dwarves is some sort of crafting and or skill with their hands. And in Thunder of the Steppe, I actually had them be vaguely Tibetan, Bhutanese, Nepali, high mountain people, but that they were good at.
Hey, if dwarves live on mountains, right? There's only a couple of really high mountain cultures that we have to draw on from history, right?
Yeah,
you've got the Inca, you have the Tibetans, right?
Yeah, and so they lived on high mountains. They crafted stone, but they were more faith-based. They crafted stone mostly through the stone shape spell or similar things, right? They had a lot of organic stone buildings and stone tunnels, or organic looking, rather than being, runic carved from the rock. They built with the mountain rather than, against it. And otherwise they were largely the same. More monks than warriors, but that was
in many interpretations of Buddhism. Consuming intoxicating substances is a no-go.
They didn't drink, or they did not drink the same amount as a standard dwarf. So, but yeah, I like your
I like that
like exploded planet scrapper, Mad Max
right.
people. I like
and
that.
they're just like trying to recover all their cool technology. And then this brought me to one of the things we've talked about is, and I think this is important to do if you have experienced groups in D&D, is there's so many new toys in 5th edition, right? There's over 30 new races. And if you want players to pick races from the player's handbook, you might need to give them a new little toy. And I decided I'm going to give everything from the player's handbook a nice extra thing that's very minor. Like the elves being able to reincarnate, once a campaign to a new sub-race. The dwarves, I think, each one either knows a proficiency with a firearm or knows one first level or cantrip ritual to represent their high technology and high magic.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that. I like if you're gonna homebrew, give everybody a little something, a little tweak to set them apart. I think this is a fun thing you can do, toys to play with. But yeah, enough about dwarves. I think they're very cool. Use them or don't, but don't be like what's his face from Paizo and hate dwarves. They deserve better from you. All right, next up, I think we got to talk about halflings.
Okay, halflings are, I think, not the toughest one, but I think a tougher one.
Yeah.
So halflings have really had, I don't know, a sort of schizophrenic history in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Going from straight up riff-offs to Tolkien, and in some of the previous editions, they tried to make them more like nomads that didn't have curly hair and they wore shoes. They basically looked like little humans. And then they've sort of come back to some middle ground. They're basically more Tolkien-esque now in 5th edition. So they've been all over the place.
Yeah, and I don't think they're the hardest, but I have trouble coming up with any sort of brilliant idea for halflings. it's not that they're boring, it's or that they lack, because the main like theme at this point that's like really like that ties them together is sort of like a pluckiness, a luck, right? Like there seems to be like some sort of like luck mechanic for halflings through a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, or better saving throws or a little bit tougher, right? They have they just, again, playing off
They're survivors.
They're survivors. And see, if I were gonna, I'll tell, when we get to what we did for my homebrew, I'll tell you it wasn't very inventive, but if I were gonna do that, I would have them be nomads or survivalists, or, or live in like sort of like extreme climates because of their inherent hardiness. Maybe like Arctic halflings, or
there was a Spelljammer Arctic halflings that were pretty cool. The Furchin or something like that.
Yeah,
extreme climates. I like that.
The only ones that I really liked were the cannibalistic Dark Sun halflings, but only because that was like amazingly interesting. But those are the only like halfling people that really like stand out in my mind. The rest are usually like played like in most fantasy settings, they're played for laughs or treated as objects of fun. And I think like Arctic halflings, or high desert halflings or something like that, living in like the steppes somewhere, surviving in the tundras. I think that would be because they're tough, right? That's their whole thing. Like, even going back to Tolkien is, they may not be strong, they may not be, particularly hardy, but like they have big hearts, and they keep going, and they can survive anywhere. And, even the soft hobbits, accustomed to their comforts, are the only ones with the hearts big enough and spirits strong enough to carry the ring to Mordor. And I think that's what you should really like lean into with halflings, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And now I think I'm seeing where I might take them in wild space. I thought one useful trope that I could add is sometimes like cultures or species come up with really useful ideas that allow them to survive. And if survival is the theme we might use for halflings, I think the one that they might use in my world is the idea of fictive kinship, right? Halflings come from a really extreme world. Maybe I can't decide if it should be an Arctic world or a desert world since it's set in space. It might be both. It might be a world that like goes like, 1 year it's desert, the next year it's a death world. Okay, I got it. All my halflings
it could be like Arrakis, right? It could have poles, and then like most of the planet is desert, or even worse, like an Arctic side and a desert side, or just like a death world.
It could be tidally locked. It could be something like that. I think I might go with it's a death world where everything there kills you. They're basically Ewoks, right?
Right. It could be like a Stellaris.
There's all these things that want to eat them.
It could be like a Stellaris tomb world, right? Like they live in like a shattered planet, right? Something that's been like destroyed by a cataclysm, or there's no radiation, I guess, in D&D, but I don't know, magical radiation, right? And they've got, resistance to certain things, and they're especially, good at surviving.
That explains their sort of lucky trait. Mm-hmm. But because we won't want to make them a planet of hats and just put it on there, the only way they've survived is because everything on their world wants to eat them, and they taste delicious.
Of course they do. They're halflings.
They've developed, this sort of fictive kinship. They're sort of people groups of hunter foragers are constantly having to reconstitute themselves and reaffirm their bonds. And once this campaign setting is set in a solar system that has been recently conquered in the past 100-200 years and now liberated, and everyone's still kind of dealing with that, is that the way the halflings have integrated is through ties of family. Like, the halfling will make you his cousin or uncle and aunt, and almost every human culture has some form of doing this, right? But halflings are really good about it. And this has meant that since they've left the planet, they've succeeded really well for the halflings who don't still live on the death world at business. And less reputable business.
Sure, right.
They're basically the halflings. Many of them.
Well, sure. You're used to creating, fictive hunter-gatherer kinships. So you create like a very strong and reliable crime family. I mean, what's the strongest like criminal enterprise? It's a family.
It's a family. That is what our thing is about.
It's a great idea, Matt.
Well, it's led by halflings, right? They're okay with fictive kinship. So if you're frogman or rock guy or elf or dwarf wants to join the family, all you have to do is become a family member and never be loyal. So halflings in my world, right, come from a death world, and they're really good at fictive kinship and deals. I'm pretty sure that in Thunder of the Steppe, my halflings were just part of them, and half-elves and humans and some half-orcs were all part of sort of the generic Gnostic European, Holy Roman Empire. Yeah, that's another solution that D&D has used.
I did not give them their own. They were just like part of a group, a multi-species coalition.
Right. It's like halflings are like parasites on human society, and their little bucolic villages just sprout up wherever there are humans.
Not that bad, but yeah, there tends to be a lot of time they're just like, oh, there's halflings here. They don't have their own place. They just live around humans. All right, we got to get through a bunch more species. So let's go. Let's try to get through the main D&D ones, Matt. So on to our very favorites. Let's talk about gnomes.
God damn it. All right, so I've prepped a lot for my world building and for this episode, and there's a blank spot next to gnomes. So what's the problem with gnomes, Rob? Let's talk about gnomes.
The problem with gnomes is that there's nothing to draw from but Dungeons and Dragons, right? Is this true? Like, am I wrong about this?
I mean, there's the cartoon show, right?
But, like, that's not... It's like... What are gnomes, Matt? I mean, like, what is a gnome? Like, what kind of creature is it? I mean, the thing is, like, when you create a gnome character, right? Like, everybody knows, like, what kind of thing you're gonna be, right? Didn't you have a gnome wizard? No, you didn't have a gnome wizard in World of Warcraft.
I refuse. They're too silly.
They're too silly.
Here's the problem with gnomes is, right, listen, they're small, but they're not halflings, they're not dwarves.
Gnome lovers, don't get mad at us. We don't hate gnomes, we just don't know what to do with them.
I often struggle, and I don't mind the silliness. I think it's fine to have, like, a wacky race for your player that wants to be wacky and, describes their character describes themselves as random on their Tinder profile. That's fine.
Yeah, holds up spork. I am the gnome of doom. Anyway,
yeah. So, and the other problem is, like, they're mechanically all over the place, right? The two subspecies are, one speaks with animals, every member, and the other can create, like, artifice tinker things. And it's like, how do you create something where they're a culture or a thing where they're good at both of these things, speaking to animals and tinkering, which are not exactly things
The most coherent thread appears to be that, like, gnomes are sort of tinkerers, that they are craftsmen, but of, like, whiz-bang gadgets, mostly, which is sort of hard to fit into a lot of settings. So here's what I've been thinking about.
They're the steampunk of...
They're very steampunky. Here's how I would try to fit them in. I think what you want to lean into, what I would do, is their magical connections, right? So I think 4th edition tried to make them from the Feywild. Is that still the case, or is that...
That might be. They weren't in the player's handbook. I remember that.
I don't remember if they retconned that, or is that Pathfinder? Yeah. Anyway, one of them tried to say these are creatures from... They're Fey creatures. And I like that in general. So gnomes, I would say, lean on their inherent magic, say that they have, like, an affinity towards doing magic, and that they have, like, a special connection to sort of the arcane world and possibly pursuits of the mind. When I put them into Thunder on the Steppe, they were also, like elves, pretty isolated, and they were basically Greeks. They had their own island where they had a lot of learning in universities and did magic and created things, but that was kind of it. That was basically as complicated as they got. In Eberron, they are traders, and also they're
also good at crafting things, and they're also spies. They're also like information gatherers.
And I think that's pretty good. Yeah, and it leans on their dragon mark, which is the dragon mark of passage. Anyway, so if I were gonna try to put them in a unique
sending, I believe it was sending.
Sorry, you're right, sending. They control the messenger service. So if you were going to try to put gnomes in, that's where I would go. I would say they're the race that is mystically inclined, and hope for the best.
Yeah, I think so. I had two thoughts, which is I thought about making gnomes the truly, so you make all these different species, but none of them are super alien to your players, right? And I thought, well, if I could lean into the randomness as an explanation for all the wacky gnome PCs out there, maybe gnomes are the truly weird alien ones, right? Their minds work differently. They're incomprehensible. There's not too much you can do with that. So, I don't know. That might make them...
I think that if you give them... Yeah, make them real weird. But not like fun weird, but like weird. Like, I'm trying to think of a good science fiction
analogy
analog. Did you read, this is unrelated, did you read Werner Vinge's A Fire Upon the Deep?
No.
There's a viewpoint character, viewpoint characters, and a major part of it are these aliens that are literally like a pack of dogs that are a hive mind. So like each individual is like 4 or 5 like little dogs that like form like a brain unit. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think you should do that with gnomes, but I was just thinking
gnomes have 1/5 of a brain. That's why when they're out by themselves, they're real weird.
I'm just realizing that there's something that's underrepresented in Dungeons and Dragons. Where are the hive minds? Where are the
hive minds?
Collective individuals. Anyway, so
not in Wild Space, where we got all sorts of crazy psionic empires out there.
Yeah, that would never work. Gnomes, don't know what to do with them, but they're not bad. It's just there's not much to draw from, in my opinion, to work with.
I was really hoping I could figure this out, because this was really stumping me. I mean, I could go back to the biome thing. Is there a crazy planet that gnomes could be from to make them interesting?
I mean, you could.
I wonder if there are gnomes on the sun.
You already have like a. I mean, if you want to make them super weird, they could be. They could all come from a fleet of generation ships and be extra galactic, right? If you do want to like lean into that like alien thing, like gnomes arrived in a fleet of arcs from some distant galaxy. And
I was thinking that, but I was just thinking all the player handbook species are so very similar that it should be something much more weirder looking with 6 arms on that. Because I'm going to have all kinds of species in this game.
That's too weird.
All right, yeah.
What about... I mean, they
love jokes, right?
They could be from like a binary system, or I don't know, their weird planet orbits a neutron star or something. I don't know. I don't know how this would like make them. I don't know what to do with gnomes, man. I don't know what to do with gnomes.
Okay, how about this? Something like they're only. How about this? I can keep gnomes in the game without well, really discouraging. How about this? Here's a fun thing. This is, I think, something one of my players did in a 13th age game. There are only... I might make it a really ridiculous number. Okay, how about this? There are only 144 gnomes. Okay. There are always 144, or there are only 12 or something like that. And if you want to play a gnome, you're one of the 12 gnomes.
I'm into it.
All right, I can't think of anything else, but I'm for now going to say there are only 12 gnomes. There are always 12 gnomes. Whenever one of the gnomes dies, another is born.
I love it.
And that way, if you're one of the 12 gnomes, you're very special. But that's always the problem of your characters are too special. People are like, oh my god, it's one of the gnomes. Okay, 144 is a better number.
Yeah, that's a better number.
Okay. And that way, when people are like, do you know my other friend who's also a gnome? They're like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I do. I do know that.
Really not that many. There are more people in my high school than the gnomes. Okay, we got 2 more species, and then I want to talk about just adding new species and things like that. We've got sort of the newer additions to the D&D. Oh, sorry. We've got half-orcs.
Got half-orcs.
Half-elves.
Oh, okay. Orcs and half-orcs I love. We've talked about this before. I think that this is the place where most people make the most mistakes, and so if you're going to put orcs and half-orcs in your game, I would encourage you to do literally anything but make them, savage or tribal.
The evil marauding horde.
Yeah. There's nothing easier, and so I would give them literally anything.
The easiest thing to do is pull Warcraft, right? If you want them to be good warriors and in a horde, make it a good horde.
Make it a good horde, right. And the Elder Scrolls does this, like they're sort of samurai-esque, and it's still like a little bit tropey to make them noble warriors, but they are kind of designed to be warriors in terms of stats. So again, in Thunder on the Steppe, I made them horseback riding steppe warriors, based on the Mongols. But yeah, just I've always hated, orcs are evil, and half-orcs are, savage at their core. So if you're going to include them, I would just say do something different,
I recently tried to read William Blake's America, A Prophecy. Here's why I've decided with orcs, is that I don't know much about their background, but I know that during the period of conquest in the solar system that all the free peoples banded together, the orcs, or an orc, oh shit, I'm realizing something terrible, but let me finish. An orc started the revolution, right? In William Blake's America, the Prophecy, orc is sort of a figure of rebellion against the gods and ushering in a new age. And I think, do orcs in 5th edition get a charisma bonus? They don't.
They do not.
But they do get menacing, which is the intimidate skill.
Right.
So I'm just like, orcs are, in fact, in this world, though they are very scary looking, right? They have a lot of respect, and they're known to be the diplomats and the people who helped found the Republic of all the things. So orcs are, you can keep all the same things like warrior culture, but orcs are revolutionaries. They are the most radicals. They have the most radical thoughts. I'm probably not going to include full orcs. I'll probably just say, if you want to be an orc, you're the half-orc stats, and that counts as orcs.
That's what I did in Thunder on the Steppe, and I don't see any reason. Again, I think the whole half-anything is a little weird, and it's
Robert is against mixing the species.
That's right. I'm against miscegenation. No.
I just realized what's bad about that is, and I'm sure this one Max Landis put no thought into William Blake when he wrote Bright and had an orc as the one who defeated the Dark Lord or something, yet everyone for some reason is still racist against them. Right? Which should they not be racist against? Anyway, I don't know. I forget that movie. He's a terrible person. We just found out that he's even more terrible in more serious ways.
What bad thing did he do now? He sucks so much.
He's an abusive, misogynist to his partners.
Anyway.
Came out today. Anyway, so there's your Max. So orcs are revolutionaries. They're radicals. They have the most extreme ideas. It seems on the whole, right? And they're well respected as diplomats and leaders.
I like that. And I do also like the idea of sort of like orcs as representing parts of the, the working class, the proletariat. Don't make them dumb, but, if you want orcs to be like the workforce, the noble, like the, responsible working people of your world, that's good too. That makes sense again for like a strength bonus species,
I think when the evil empire came in my world, orcs, were, because of their endurance, were like basically got the worst of everyone of the colonizing things, right? Mm-hmm. As colonization is all about creating some one of the many things that's all about is creating some sort of fictional hierarchy on the people that you are colonizing, right? And the orcs were at the bottom, and they started the revolution, and okay. And so orcs are super important in Thunder on the Steppe, and I think centering a campaign around orcs was just a lot of fun. Yeah,
I wanted to imagine what they would be like if they, kept a lot of the same...
Didn't suck all the time?
And didn't suck. And it was great. They conquered, the greater part of it from horseback. They liked to ride. They had sky druids, right, that, helped keep the empire together over great distances, and it was really interesting. I gave the players an option to sort of work with them or oppose them, and the players decided to side with one of the less awful orcs. Actually, he was a good guy, Ogredai, and it was really interesting. So I really like orcs because I love playing against type, and I love subverting expectations. This is one of the best places to do it, because even to this day, most mainstream D&D writers don't really try to do anything interesting with orcs. They're still like written as evil for the most part, and I just think we can do better than that. Even Tolkien at the end of his life struggled with, the conception of orcs as being irredeemably evil. So, A
very Catholic problem to have.
It is.
All right, we've got 2 new species in 5th edition, right, that are up front in the player's handbooks. Obviously, they're not new to Dungeons & Dragons, but they're new being in the thing that every player has, right? We've got Tieflings, and we've got Dragonborn.
Right. So I want to talk Dragonborn first, because
let's do it.
I think this is a little easier. So I actually really like Dragonborn, and I know that not everybody was on board when they came around, but I'm into it.
You're not. Some people are mammals only for some reason.
I'm not a mammals only person. I'm not a mammals only.
I definitely can't be a mammals only in a space game, right? I need silicon. I need base life forms. I need reptiloids. I need all those things.
I will say, so I think that Dragonborn are kind of a blank slate, right? You can do anything you want with them, and I think what you do with Dragonborn depends on the position of dragons in your society. Or in your world, or if dragons exist at all. I like making them. They have scales, so that makes them good candidates for being part of like living in extreme environments, or being a particularly foreign species. It also makes them good for
Rob, I just gotta stop you right there. I feel like your ecology, biology is a little off. The endothermic creatures are actually really bad at adapting to new environments. That's why mammals, after the Triassic Cretaceous explosion, there was a big, I think it's called a branching or a flowering, a blooming, and spread everywhere. So, Rob's canceled now. I just canceled him. Only half of that was right.
This mammal is sweltering in his own sweat. So Matt, just fucking get on with it.
Okay, fine. Yes. So they're interesting for that reason.
So where do they fit in wild space? In wild space, well, because I think this is a great one for a space campaign, right? So I also, sorry, the one thing I think that if you're gonna have like a conquering, high species, Dragonborn is a great choice for this.
You've anticipated the direction I'm going. There's an evil empire of the conquering worm, or they might call themselves the Ouroboros.
Ooh, I like it.
And they're led by dragons and dragon-blooded creatures, and the Dragonborn are their elite shock troops, their foot soldiers. So the people of the main system, right, see them as conquerors, but when the peace treaty was signed, when the revolution was successful, a lot of them got left behind or were stuck behind and are a common sight now. So Dragonborn are super cool, and if you look at their stats, they're super good at fighting.
Yeah.
Every soldier a breath weapon. But yeah, they're the sort of mistrusted species, I think. If I'm looking for something that's truly alien, right, they come from a completely different, they are the outsiders, right? Their lizard brains work a little differently. So I think that's what I'm doing with my Dragonborn. They're the elite soldiers of an invading empire, many of whom were left behind after the war's end.
I love it. I think it's great. Yeah.
You didn't have to deal with Dragonborn because Thunder on the Steppe was made for 3rd edition, so you're...
That's right.
You're set.
I did, I think, include some towards the end, but nobody wanted to play one, and I didn't really have to think of anything for them. So, yeah. But I actually really think they're interesting. I just think that you can kind of do whatever you want with them. It just depends on where dragons fit into your world.
Well, yeah, I think that's the interesting thing is Dragonborn are super interesting. I think of all the stuff in the player's handbook, the stuff about the Dragonborn is the worst.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they give you very little to work with, and it's just, not very...
And it's super boring. They're like, they're honorable. They have a clan. Isn't that what dwarves have? I don't know.
Yeah.
Come up with something cool for Dragonborn. Yeah. I don't know. That's where you need to do you can do your best work. And I'm excited for Dragonborn in my campaign. Okay, we've got one last one, and it's, I think, the, most popular new race in 5th edition, and that's the Tiefling. The Tiefling. Everyone wants to be a sexy demon,
Everyone
and
wants
I don't
to be
blame
a
them.
Sexy demon, they want to have horns and a tail, and you know what? They're not wrong. Those things are great. So, yeah, what do you think about Tieflings, Matt?
Tieflings, I think, are super useful, and I like having species like this that are like, hey, a Tiefling can be born to a regular human, right, as a result of a curse or a bad pact of magic or something like that, right?
Yeah, what bugs me a bit is that it sort of forces a certain...
Maybe I'll do that with gnomes.
A certain aesthetic thing on your game because they have horns and a tail and they're demon and or devil spawn. You don't have to stick to that, but it's frustrating and slows things down to have to explain to your players, well, there's a tiefling, but in this world, there are no demons, so it actually looks like blah, 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 blah. And, it's fine. This is it's a little bit like giving every rogue thieves cant, that it's not a huge problem. It's one of those things about 5th edition that makes it a little bit harder to tinker with that bugs me.
Here's the solution I've come up with is the sort of Star Trek fantasy space tropes is all about contrasting things. And one of the other evil empires out there, and I'm not sure what it's called yet. I think it might be called the Divine Empire of Thune, because I like the word Thune, is that they're basically a giant caste empire. I took all my plain touch species, Aasimar, Tieflings, Genasi of your 4 different flavors, and they've basically either through magic or breeding, it happened so long ago no one knows, they've separated what were once probably humans into 6 unique species, and they all have a very determined caste role. And I'm guessing the Aasimar are probably in charge or the ruling families, but the Tieflings are the ones who get everything done in this evil empire, right? The fire Genasi are the warrior caste, the earth are the laborer caste, but the Tieflings are the diplomats and the ones that administrators, and they are and it gives players a good reason to be one and a good reason to go back to that trope of, hey, Tieflings are mistrusted, because usually when players want to pick a Tiefling, they want to be an outsider and be a little mistrusted. And since they're from an evil empire, players might mistrust them.
And I think there's a lot of interesting things you can do with Tieflings. You have to do a lot more legwork with their backstory, depending on whatever whatever faith-based systems you have in your game, potentially.
Right. Yeah. I always think an interesting trope is to put tieflings, instead of as outsiders, on top, right? There's an evil empire that's made a pact with demons, and the entire ruling nobility are now tieflings, but they're evil, and they love it.
They
just love being evil. I might still go back to that with my evil empires but I like my cast idea of plain touched. All right. Okay, Rob, so we've talked about the species in the player's handbook, but there's a million more species out there, especially for 5th edition. So let's just talk about some of our favorites and how they can be fun.
Yeah, I like a lot of them. If I had to, I like the inclusion of bird people or cat people in limited amounts.
Yes.
I think that I really like bird people. I think they make a lot of sense in a fantasy setting, and I like to include Kenku or Arakokra in some form or another. I think they're a fun thing to have.
For me, it's super easy doing a space thing, right? Is that every species is out there and is probably traveled and is in some small numbers in the place where the players start. And for bird people, turtle people, cat people, right? Those are great tropes for a space thing. So I'm including all of those. They're just not probably from the native starting system, but they're almost certainly there in large numbers as visitors. I find putting cat people in is always, it's a crowd pleaser. Someone always wants to be a cat person.
Yeah, people love the cat people. I also really like the Gith. I love the Gith lore and the Gith species stats. I think they're fun to play. So I like to leave room for them, though they're usually not like critical to any of my games.
I mean, for me, my non-core favorite species is obviously the Warforged.
For sure.
Robot or some sort of android is a great opportunity for role-playing, and I haven't decided yet whether the Warforged were the dwarves' ultimate creation and the reason why the evil empires targeted their planet for destruction because they would become super powerful, or that they were the marauding soldiers of an army of another evil empire that was invading. So I haven't decided which one of those, but Warforged are going to be very central to my campaign world.
Yeah, Warforged are great, and I also think that a construct race is just a super, super good idea, whether it's Warforged or something else. And I think that's a great fit, an easy fit for any of your games, and you should definitely consider putting that in. I think allows players to grapple with some interesting things. You have a good chance to do some fun world building. A lot of people like to play robots or robot type things. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Warforged as well.
I've got every species under the sun somewhere in my campaign world. And then I think making a new species for your campaign is something that is much, much easier to do than almost everything else, right?
Yes, I think so too. I think it's actually one of the easiest things to do.
And like for mine, I've got some guys, some big rock guys, right? There was an old MMO that was really terrible that had a little rock space MMO. I can't remember what it was called, but there were little rock guys in it, and they got drunk and they loved to fight, and that was all there was to their species, and that is absolutely okay sometimes. And I've got some rock people who are drunk and love to fight. I also found some great art of some orca people because I need a water planet, and so I've definitely got those, and they're sort of proud hunter race, right? They love to kill big aliens that are evil. So those are some of the ones that I'm throwing in there. The Nyogi, as always. What about you? If you have you homebrewed any species recently, Rob?
I don't normally homebrew species. I like to take ones that exist and fiddle with them. Though there are certain species tropes that I don't think are particularly well represented. And I do like... Oh, that's not true. This was a combination of things, but I have in the past homebrewed reptilian races that are not... like
not kobolds, not lizard folk.
Not kobolds, not lizard folk.
See, in mind, they're all part of the dragon empire. They all serve the dragon queen.
Troglodytes, right? But humanoid reptiles, that are no, not monstrous looking, I guess. That's okay. So that's actually, I forgot what I called them, but yeah, I did homebrew those, and I've used them in a couple of different things. But I like the idea of a desert dwelling. Don't get on me on endothermic, whatever. Okay. They lay in the sun.
They can live in the desert. That's fine.
They take a siesta. That's it's part of their noble reptilian empire. But yeah, I like to have like a vaguely humanoid. Not a monstrous reptile, right? Something that's has 4 limbs and no tail, and I think that's an interesting trope that I've already forgot what I called them. I did put them in Thunder on the Steppe, but you encountered them maybe once, and you never went to their weird blood worshipping empire in the south. So, but yeah, that's there are a lot of like reptilian species, right? But they're all part of like the draconic phylum
mythos.
Yeah,
lizard folk maybe aren't, but they look enough like dragons that they should
and they
be.
Want to be. Yeah,
right. Okay, so we've talked all about species. I hope this has given everyone some great ideas for homebrewing your own world, or to put new twists on species for your campaign. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hey,
if you have thoughts about this, or you have something you want to share with us, absolutely send it to us, dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter at dmofnone. If there's something you want us to talk about more, there's more we could have talked about here. We could go into further detail, and maybe we will on a later homebrew episode about building your own races and designing them. But we have already been going on for quite some time, so...
And if you have a question, right, the email address is dmofnone@gmail.com, or you can call us on the Dungeon Master hotline, now open, 774-203-4629.
So yeah.
And here is our, do you have a D4 and after for us, or I've got one as always.
Yeah, go ahead and do this one, because I kind of already gave up the one I had in mind.
We've got 2 today. So Rob, because we talked for them a long time, and we're probably never going to get my promise episode that is only all about dwarves. Rob,
we'll do a bonus, but we can always do a bonus.
Whom star your 2 favorite dwarves?
My 2 favorite dwarves. This is both too easy and too hard.
Too hard? That's why it's a good D4 and after question.
My favorite dwarf is, of course, Gimli, elf friend. There is no greater dwarf than he.
So a dwarf can only be cool if he's friends with elves. I see how it is.
That's exactly what I'm saying. But yeah, Gimli, loved him even though John Rhys Davies was a dick. Loved him in all of the movies, even though he was an object of fun. Love Gimli. Great guy. Love that Gim.
Okay, let's see. For me, I'm gonna have to go with I'll get my comic relief dwarf out of the way. Boopoo Bulp, the little gully dwarf from Dragonlance. Great comic relief. He was hilarious.
He was hilarious. That's true.
All right, who's your other?
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about Dragonlance in a long time.
We got to do a nostalgia trip sometime.
My second favorite dwarf is. Sorry, I'm gonna have to remind myself of what.
Can't you name all 13 dwarves, Rob?
No, I'm going off.
Does you want to go? It's sleepy.
If anything, it's grumpy. But no, I'm going off script, and
as someone who is Facebook friends with Rob, he's constantly posting Grumpy the Dwarf memes like, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. And there's a picture of Grumpy the Dwarf with arms folded.
It's true. I also post only Minion memes when I'm not posting Grumpy. Pykel Boulder Shoulder is my second favorite dwarf. This is a
Boulder Shoulder.
Boulder Shoulder. This is a dwarf from one of R.A. Salvatore's lesser-known series, a compatriot of Catterley, the priest.
Catterley, yeah.
And he's a dwarven druid who I think is like barely literate, and like doesn't like at first, like his like brother who's like a normal dwarf thinks he's like daft, and he's like, oh, he thinks he's a druid, but then he like actually is a druid.
He turns into a hawk, and you're like, well, I guess we're wrong.
Yeah, it's great. Michael Boulder Shoulder, yeah, big fan. I loved those books as a kid, the Catterley series or whatever. But
yeah. Well,
number 2 for you, Matt.
Number 2, or this is my number 1. Saving the best for last. Gonna go with Dwalin.
Dwalin has a great post-Hobbit career.
He does a very sad one,
but a noble one.
I think the thing is, there's not too much characteristic differences between all the dwarves and the hobbits, but like the one that Tolkien put a little effort into was Dwalin, and he just shows an incredible kindness
he does.
that we should all ascribe try to ascend to. But
yes.
your funny comic relief dwarf was good too. But Dwalin, he reminds us what is the best in us: friendship, love, seeing through stereotypes,
dying tragically.
Yeah. Editor's note: Rob and Matt here, of course, mean Balin, son of Fundin, not Dwalin, son of Fundin. Our apologies.
Yeah. All the dwarves who went with Bilbo, I'd say about half of them are pretty cool dudes. Balin almost made it on my list, but yeah. Balin was a pretty great dwarf.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
There he lies.
There he
son
lies.
of Fundin. Well, he's Dwalin's brother, right? So
yeah, he's Dwalin's brother,
yeah.
Balin and Dwalin are good pair.
Yeah.
All right,
he was... I mean, obviously, he's cooler than Dwalin because Balin is the most ballin of the
Get
13.
the fuck out. Keep rolling them dice.
All
Bye.
Right.
Cat people run like the wind. Cat people screw like the wind. Even old moldy Noah didn't want to let him in. Cat people, wind. All right,